Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another daily cryptocurrency market update. If you are new around here, every single day at 1 p.m. UK time, we are committed to bringing you an update just like this one to help you stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the crypto space, but also the broader markets, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. We're going to start the video off with a clip from Tom Emmer, who essentially testified in front of Congress the other day and basically called BS on what the SEC is doing and Gary Gensler is doing when it comes to regulating and oversighting the cryptocurrency space. So it's a very interesting clip. We're going to dive into it. You have the former SEC chair, of course, this is Jay Clayton, talking about a spot Bitcoin ETF approval is inevitable. We know this. It's likely why Bitcoin's price is doing what it's doing. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens when we actually get the approval. Is that going to run into a key technical level for Bitcoin, which is the kind of inverse head and shoulders that we've had since the start of the year? You run to that level, the ETF gets approved, and maybe you get that buy the rumor, sell the news kind of effect. But ultimately, an ETF approval really is very significant for not just Bitcoin, but the entire space, because it kind of gives a level of legitimacy to it, and it actually breaks down the walls, certainly in the US, where there's some of the largest capital in the world, to actually get involved with Bitcoin and look to add it to portfolios and other such things and facilitate it. It really is a huge hurdle to overcome. And once we've overcome it, we're going to see a similar trajectory to what we saw with gold when it had its first spot ETF back in 2004 in the US anyway. They did have one in 2003 in Australia, I believe, and Canada actually before they had one in the US. Kind of similar to what we're seeing with Bitcoin. And of course, for example, the SPY, the SPIDER, that basket of stocks, S&P 500, which came, I think, in 1994. And if you look at the trajectories of what happened with those after they had a spot Bitcoin ETF approved, I think you're going to see a similar thing for Bitcoin. So we will be looking at that. We're going to be looking at the dollar, of course. You guys know it's all really about getting the direction of the dollar right. You get the direction of the dollar right, you're going to get the direction of your risk right. And you can see Bitcoin, crypto having a little bit of a sort of stalling period, you could say, although Bitcoin's doing quite well. Whilst you're getting a little bit of dollar strength after what was, in our opinion, quite a pivotal moment with non-farm payroll, and the dollar is now in our under our assessment on a downward trajectory, which is going to see risk do quite well. And some of our altcoins are doing spectacularly. We gave a number of altcoins publicly. They were Filecoin, VRA, and Quant that are all doing very well. And of course, privately in our Patreon, we've got altcoins that we're looking to trade, swing trade. And if you do become a Patreon, you'll get access to my underlying portfolio, which we've been positioning for the past year. And then I want to sort of finish things off on some of Lynn Alden's comments on her recent publication. Lynn Alden, by the looks of it, is a Bitcoin maxi, which we can very much understand the arguments for. We just think that Bitcoin maxis have, they've got their Bitcoin blinkers on and they don't see the real revolution that is going on here. It's far more than just a monetary one. Blockchain, digital, or distributed ledgers are changing everything, not just money and how we view it and the social parameters of it, but it's changing identity, verification of all kinds, supply chains, all kinds of finance beyond money, and everything in between. So we will be looking at that. But to start the video off, as promised, let's dive into a clip of Tom Emmer talking about Gary Gensler's approach to the crypto space.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regulation by enforcement is a practice all too common with this administration. This is particularly the case at the SEC and Chair Gary Gensler's approach towards our capital markets and financial services industry, but especially with our emerging digital assets community. My amendment seeks to put an end to Chair Gensler's pattern of regulatory abuse, a pattern that is crushing American innovation and capital formation without undermining our ability to go after criminals and fraudsters. Specifically, my amendment prohibits the SEC from using funds for enforcement activities related to digital asset transactions until Congress passes legislation that gives the SEC jurisdiction over this asset class. This will keep Chair Gensler, who has proven himself to be ineffective and incompetent, in check while Congress continues working to give this industry a chance to grow and develop right here in the United States. Let's just look at the facts. Under Gensler's leadership, the SEC has pursued dozens of enforcement actions against the digital asset industry, despite never finalizing a single rule or regulation for the industry to follow. Chair Gensler refuses to provide the marketplace with clear criteria for digital assets that he would consider to be a security. How can this industry comply if there are no rules or guidelines to follow? On top of that, Chair Gensler has developed a track record of going after actors like Coinbase, a publicly traded company desperately trying to survive and innovate right here in the United States instead of going offshore like so many are forced to do. Gensler has done this while missing bad actors like FTX and Terra Luna. At a time when clear guidance is desperately needed, Chair Gensler instead spends taxpayer resources praising himself for targeting celebrities like Kim Kardashian, while Sam Bankman-Fried was running a Ponzi scheme right under his nose. What's worse is the SEC doesn't even have jurisdiction from Congress over this asset class to begin with. Yet, the SEC has no shame in trying to expand their jurisdiction to swallow and destroy the digital assets industry through regulation by enforcement. Last year, the SEC's Director of Enforcement admitted during a House Financial Services Committee hearing that the SEC pursues enforcement actions on entities that are actually outside of its jurisdiction. One of these extra-jurisdictional enforcement cases was the SEC's landmark crypto enforcement case against Ripple, alleging that XRP is a security. In July, the Southern District of New York sided against the SEC, asserting that XRP is not itself a security. In August, the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit found the SEC to be acting arbitrarily and capriciously in its refusal to approve Grayscale's Bitcoin spot ETF application. And just last month, the Government Accountability Office found the SEC to have created an illegal crypto accounting rule that is actually out of compliance with the Administrative Procedure Act and the Congressional Review Act. The unique characteristics of digital assets make it hard to fit this asset class into any existing regulatory framework. That doesn't mean crypto is up for grabs by whatever federal bureaucratic agency has the most taxpayer-funded enforcement resources to burn. Congress is working on legislation to establish a framework for how we classify specific digital assets as a security or a commodity, which will dictate the regulator of jurisdiction. Importantly, while Congress works to pass this necessary legislation, my amendment will not prevent future bad actors like FTX from being pursued and punished to the fullest extent of the law. The Department of Justice, the Treasury, and the Office of Foreign Asset Control all have the existing and sufficient authority to prosecute criminal acts of fraud, abuse, tax, or sanctions evasion. Some would even argue that these entities have done a better job of attacking fraud and criminal activity in this space than Gary Gensler and the SEC. This amendment is designed to send an important signal, not just to the SEC, but to every regulatory entity in the federal government. Congress will hold unelected bureaucrats accountable. SEC Chair Gensler cannot continue to abuse the powers of his agency to fulfill a political agenda of driving the new and promising digital asset industry offshore. Congress must be allowed to finish its legislative work so the future of digital asset innovation is determined by Americans, not by unelected bureaucrats in D.C. And with that...
Wow, I'm glad somebody's coming out and saying some of those things with some sort of political influence. It needs to be said, you know, Gary Gensler has been tyrannical. It's a power grab, it's a land grab for these organizations, but what they don't realize is they actually hinder and stifle innovation of what is a complete revolution. You know, I'm so excited. We're writing our book. It's why we've not been putting out as much content as we'd like to, but I really want to get this book out because not only do we explore 10 cryptocurrencies that have not only revolutionized the industry of crypto, but are going to probably revolutionize certain sectors within the world, however they choose to facilitate that. Smart contracts, data, money, you know, and everything in between. And we also explain this industry and what's going on, and we look at it in comparison with other technological revolutions that have come before it and the history of money and everything in between. So really excited to get that out, but super happy with what Tom Emery said there. Lynn Alden, and I don't think we're going to have time to really cover this in a lot of detail, actually published a article. It's a great article. We'll leave a link to it in the description. We have a lot of respect for Lynn Alden. We think she is one of the best kind of economists out there. But you've got titles like Riding the Coattails of Bitcoin. And there are... The cryptocurrency space is rife with fraud. It's rife with, like anything, like any industry. Trading's a massive one. You just get complete consters. However, there are not every altcoin is a shitcoin. And this is the thing that I don't quite think people understand about. This is the thing I don't quite think Bitcoin maxis understand. However, it was a good article all the same. I'll leave a link to it in the description. We're not going to go over it in this one because we're running out of time. But it's all about the dollar for us, guys. Dollar down, risk assets up. And we continue to show this because getting this right is going to get whatever assets you're in right in terms of direction. And with the dollar going down so much, you've had obviously assets do well up until the point where we started to get high inflation. Dollar caught a bid, yields climbed higher, continued down up until this turning point here, which we identified. Bitcoin was a little bit late to the party, but has massively overperformed. Now we've got stocks and other things. You're getting a bit of dollar strength, which is all happening around key levels for the likes of the S&P. This is a range that I think you've now broken to the downside of. You typically break a range with momentum. We saw that on the back end of non-farm payroll. If the dollar does this, your risk assets are going to continue to go up. That's the long and short of it. We don't see people highlighting this enough when it comes to crypto, the other markets that are in play. And it's very self-explanatory. When you're looking at Bitcoin, you're looking at it against the dollar. Bitcoin is doing superbly. Bit grindy here, but it's sort of used it as a bit of a spring. Our call to get back into the markets here was pretty spectacular. And for altcoins, perhaps it's been a bumpy ride. However, this is our area of accumulation for altcoins. And right now, there are altcoins that are literally setting up. It's like shooting a fish in a barrel when you've got an aggressively uptrending market. And we can help you maximize that. We don't offer signals. It's not a guarantee. You've got to put in legwork yourself. But in our Patreon, we offer some really great information, and of course weekly meetings and midweek meetings like we had last night. So this is our area of accumulation for altcoins. This hasn't even broken out yet. That's to tell you what's to come. We've looked at lots of cross-market things like others' dominance. We do assess that the dollar is going to continue to roll. This is a smaller head and shoulders that's going to lead to potentially a broader head and shoulders, which is going to see alt season really come on. And we've got lots of alts. We mentioned some of them publicly even at the start of the video again that we think are going to do well. It's very interesting because I think an ETF is going to collide with a key technical level of this head and shoulders. So just to draw it very quickly, it's pretty rough. We're not drawing it exactly, which we really should be doing. But you're going to see volume supported this, a run to the 40K region. We did say you'd slice through this very quickly, given the sort of volume profile that you have on it. To pull the volume profile up. You've got no volume here. You're going to start running into volume up here, which is going to coincide with what we believe is going to be a target. I think this is where you're going to get a bit of a pullback. Don't FOMO into positions. Always look for weakness to get in. And you want to take advantage of weakness in this market. So I think your next 40K, I think you're going to run and then you're going to pause on. You're going to make this target and then you're going to pause. We've also got a bull flag potentially in here that we've still got a target from that's actually taking you a little bit higher. So we'll see what happens. Bitcoin well on the road now to 40 plus K. We've been very right on the markets. It's very nice to see, including the stock market, including this retest. Stock market also at a key level whilst you've got a little bit of dollar strength. So you might coil up, consolidate for a bit. Dollar rolls, markets do this. And that's the plan, guys. Plain and simple. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. If you enjoyed the content, like us, appreciate it as a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next.